Hi guys, it's ASBYT and this is the Poco X3 NFC, a phone that changes everything. So the X3 is the latest offering from Poco, a company that sits under the Xiaomi umbrella and really set the world alight 2 years ago with the Poco F1. It delivered some insane flagship specs for a ridiculously low price. They have since followed that up with the release of the Poco X2 early this year in India and the Poco F2 Pro globally. The F2 Pro delivered in a similar way to the F1 in terms of those really aggressive flagship specs, but due to the high manufacturing costs of the Qualcomm Snapdragon 865, the price was a lot less aggressive. This meant that it didn't quite hit the same headlines that the F1 had done because it was now in a sea of really good phones at a not so affordable price. So where could they go for their next device? How could they recapture all the attention that the F1 had got them? Enter the X3. The mindset has shifted slightly, as you'll see, but in the same way, this phone could take the world by storm due to its insanely aggressive pricing for what you get. So before we take a deeper dive, let's see exactly why this phone is so exciting, and if you're enjoying this video so far, a sub would be awesome. So what makes this phone so special, and is it actually targeted towards you? Well, we have a 6.67-inch Full HD Plus display with a 120Hz refresh rate and a 240Hz touch sampling rate, a 64-megapixel quad rear camera, stereo speakers, a headphone jack, and a 5160 mAh battery. 33-watt fast charging, liquid-cooled technology 1 Plus, and the brand new Qualcomm Snapdragon 732G chip, which is the most powerful 700 series 4G processor going. And it does all of that, get this, at £199, a little bit more in US dollars. Utterly insane. Just looking at the specs, it puts it roughly in and around the Pixel 4a, the OnePlus Nord, but at £150 or more cheaper. I can't fathom it. Really? How they've done it. Almost half the price, but we'll fully break down the phone in terms of its good points and its bad points because there are obviously some corners they have cut, which you'll see, but always have in the back of your head, it's £199. So firstly, that display. It's certainly sharp enough for a smartphone. Yes, Quad HD and 4K are nice, but not essential for a screen this size. And I would always go with a higher refresh rate than a higher resolution, as you will have probably seen from my Samsung S20 and Note 20 Ultra videos. The display is LCD and not AMOLED, so you do get that token slight discoloration near the bezels, which are pretty small without being edge to edge. But the display is fine, it's not super bright, but bright enough, with just a small punch-hole camera cutout housing a 20-megapixel front snapper, Gorilla Glass 5 on the front, and a polycarbonate plastic material on the back. So it's not quite as premium looking on the back as certain other flagships, but it certainly doesn't look and feel cheap. With the circular design for the camera array and the racing stripe down the middle with the big Poco branding. Now usually I'm not a massive fan of large logos plastered on things, but I don't think this looks too garish, and the Poco lettering kind of actually shifts in colour slightly as you move it, which is pretty cool. It's got a nice weight to it, and with the aluminium alloy frame with the side mounted fingerprint scanner, again, for just £199, it feels pretty nice and certainly sturdy enough. Although of course, like with any phone these days without a case, it will have a good old wobble on a table due to that camera bump. And speaking of camera, it's a real mixed bag with some excellent points and some less than excellent points as well, but again, $199. So usually with budget or even mid-range phones these days, camera is a big area where corners are cut. And while certainly the camera isn't the main focus of the X3, photos from the primary lens are really pretty decent. Sharp enough with good dynamic range, and as long as there's good lighting, you can get some great shots. In low light, it does tend to pick up a fair bit of noise, and yes, they're not Pixel or iPhone level, but it definitely does the job well enough for the price. You also get the 30-megapixel ultra wide lens, which is always a nice bonus, and the now almost given 2-megapixel depth sensor and 2-megapixel macro lens, completing that quad setup. Do they work? Yes. Are they good? Not really, but that's not really the point of their inclusion. So why do those types of sensors exist on a lot of mid-range and budget phones these days? Well, according to Poco, due to the low price of including such features like a macro lens, they thought, why not? Yes, they're not amazing, but if you can have some fun with it, we may as well throw it in. Personally, I would prefer companies to focus a little bit more on the software side of photography and maybe drop the lenses down to two, maybe a primary and an ultra wide, and focus on getting faster shutter speed, better processing so you can reduce that shutter lag, but that's just me. Let me know in the comments what you think. One hardware feature, however, that will aid you, especially if you're gaming, is the mentioned liquid cool technology One Plus, and the phone's enlarged copper heat pipe. It's apparently been propped up by multiple layers of graphite designed to reduce the heat of the processor by up to 6 degrees to reduce thermal throttling and maintain peak performance. Now, while I haven't been able to fully test performance in the time that I've had it, I can say with the higher refresh and touch input rates, it has been a very pleasurable experience, with the phone feeling incredibly responsive to every single touch, with next to no latency, exactly what you need for gaming. And the haptic feedback has felt very solid, again adding to that experience. Their latest Game Turbo 3.0 apparently optimizes the phone's performance to again aid long gaming sessions. And this, combined with the 6GB of RAM, 128GB of internal storage, up to 256GB of just get too excited. 256GB of external storage, you've got yourself a real competent gaming device. Now, all of this sounds great, but in terms of performance, I hear you ask the question, where does the Snapdragon 732G fit in the market? Well, it sits somewhere in the middle of the 730G found in the Pixel 4a, which it kind of replaces, and under the 765G found in the OnePlus Nord, as that is a 5G chip, and this is 4G only. So yes, it's not flagship 865 level, but the average everyday consumer would probably find that performance a little bit overkill anyway, and it would certainly more than double the price of the thing. So for the everyday person, it's exactly what you need and no more. Then, of course, there's software. It's MIUI 12 for Poco over Android 10, and it's fluid, quick, and easy to use, but I still don't think it will ever be my preference over a more stock feel. It's probably my favourite take on MIUI yet, and many people actually prefer it to stock, but I am a sucker for that crystal clean feeling, I'm afraid. Of course, if you are a stickler for all things stock Android, you can change a lot of it by throwing on a launcher and tweaking settings, etc. So not my overall favourite OS, but it's certainly not rubbish. Oh, and if you're also a stickler for ratings, then it's IP53 rated, so splashproof, but certainly wouldn't submerge it. So if you take a step back from everything you've just heard, and again think about the fact that this phone is £199, I think you'll agree that this sets a new benchmark in the industry, in the market completely. The pricing is that aggressive. When I saw the spec sheet, I presumed the price would be about £350, £400, maybe even as low as £300 at a pinch. But at £200 there or thereabouts, it's absurd. Bringing the mid-range down to the budget, the Poco X3 NFC will send shockwaves through the industry, with the other manufacturers scrambling to catch up with this new normal. That's just my opinion. Let me know yours in the comment section below. Is this a fantastic phone for $199, or are you looking at something else for that sort of price? Would you prefer to spend a little bit more and get certain other features? Again, let me know in the comment section below. Drop a like on the video, subscribe if you are new to the channel and love everything tech, breaking tech news, unboxings, reviews. I love you and leave you. I'll see you in the next one. ASBYT, peace out.